There we go. Okay, let me see. We got water. Almost forgot to turn on my tits. Almost. Almost. But if my tits are turned on time, then it doesn't count. Connected. Here we go. Today's gonna be an interesting day for sure. I think I need to turn on the air conditioning. All the machines at the office make it so it's pretty hot without air conditioning, so it kind of becomes mandatory. All right, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Hello, hello. Hope you're all doing good. Yes, yes, yes. Today is gonna be the day that I do some interesting things. Yes, 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 yes. Hello, Mr. Crazy Cat. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing good. So, here's our assignment for today. Here's what we're gonna do. Today, I want to do some scene composition studies. So what that basically means is I wanna work on some backgrounds. I work a lot on usually just how to say character stuff, right? And I've been neglecting my ability to make backgrounds thanks to my a few art lessons that I gotten. I am now more or less... Where is this? Ah, this layer, okay. I want to try out some things that I learned, basically. Oh, I see. There we go. That was some hard to kill that pixels. So this was something that I was working outside of stream. The main idea is we've been playing Sword of Hope. And Sword of Hope has these lovely little backdrops when you're exploring the place, the areas in the game that illustrate where you are. And I want to do like a series of stuff like that. Ow. Hey, Retro Gamers, welcome to the stream. How are you doing? Attack! I've been attacked. And just to spice things up, I am using, let me show you. Oh, I don't think I can show right now. But this is the Game Boy Color palette. How are you? I'm doing good. Yeah. Because I want to give that like a little retro feeling. So this is supposed to be our base, our ninja base, right? This is our ninja base. I already see an issue with what I was doing. Yeah, retro feeling. Got that retro feeling. Yeah, there's already an issue here. The walls are slightly crooked. Because this one is 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I've already found a lot of issues. I work at this outside the stream. And I was sort of paying attention to it. Nothing warms my heart more than retro games. Nice, nice. Hopefully my retro art will capture the feeling. Yes, 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 yes. Because honestly, AAA gaming has been rough lately. Has been pretty rough. What about a retro gamer? I think we can do this. Yeah. No, I kinda like this one a little bit more. Yeah, let's do like this. There we go. I have quite a few retro gamer buddies. Nice. That is very nice too. Yeah. So, this is our assignment. This is what we are doing. Yeah, but did we know we share a papa? Oh, did Hato rig your model too, Misa? Hato rig your model too? Because Hato rigged my main model, which I don't use very often ever since I started playing a lot of pixel games because the pixel models fit better. But yeah. This one. Oh, Mag! Oh, in that case, we share a model for this one. This is the one. Yes. Oh, Lunatic did yours too. That is great. Lunatic is wonderful. It does such a good job. And is overly humble about it. Oh, that is nice. He really is. Indeed. He is great indeed. 2, 3, 4. There we go. I actually had to figure out a way to repay him for some work he did for me recently. Ended up getting him to convince him to do an art trade, essentially. However, there we go. Okay, here we go. I knew something was slightly off. The walls felt a little bit weird. So this was the reason. We had an incorrect number of pixels for this inclination. And we want to keep them lined up in this particular case. Because there is no, like, odd angle. If there was an odd angle, it would have been fine to have different inclination. I watched him work on yours and mine. He told me he did the art. You did the art for yours. I thought it was pretty cool. Ah, thank you. Yeah. I like... The pixel art model is... if I want a pixel art model, I feel like I have to do it myself. Because at least when you're also an artist and you do VTubing, the model kind of becomes a window of your art. A shopping window of your art, if that makes any sense. So at least if you do art for models, right? Hey Dinilumi! Kinda gonna learn my neck word so off today. Okay, thanks for dropping by. I really appreciate it. Hope your internet gets better. Nothing is worse than when the internet acts dumb. Nothing is worse than a dumb internet. You know what I mean? It's the worst. I'm not an artist, I have a model, mama who did my art, I can draw to save my soul. But I am a writer. Oh, that is cool, that is cool, that is cool. Yeah, that's kinda it, right? If you are a writer, for instance, and you wanna do a... Let's say you wanna do a lore video or something like that. You're the one who's gonna write it, right? It makes more sense like that. It's so annoying, every 2-3 minutes I have to reload the page, it's very simple. Ah, I see. You know, I like the look of this pixel art. Ah, thank you! I am writing a large series for my character, that is awesome! 5 books. I see. I'm glad you're liking this retro. Because I really am trying to get a retro feel for this. Okay, so... I do need the... Hey Lunatic, welcome to the stream! I'm gonna need to... How are you doing today? How are you doing today? Okay, so we are gonna do this so I can have an idea of where it should... it should be 1, 2, 3, 4 pixels higher. Okay. So actually, I wasn't that off. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 3. There you go. Okay, so it was actually correct. That's good. That's good. Oh yeah, it's real nice actually, Kiba. I know it's not completed, but so far so good. Ah, thank you. Like I said, I am using the Game Boy Color palette for this, so we're restricted to the colors in this specifically. I do wanna try... Oops. See what happens if we get bluegrass. It doesn't look bad, but this feels like it would be for nighttime. Yeah, let's do... So I've heard low. You know what is really fun? This... As a sprite has a bunch of like different palettes you can use. You can even get the original Game Boy palette, just 5 colors. Nighttime Tempo. It would be cool, but I would have to change I think I would have to change the colors on the walls too. And I'm not entirely sure I have all the colors for it. Let's see here. But maybe we could do a variant. Maybe we could try to do like a daytime variant and a nighttime variant. It would look awesome, actually. Can definitely try. At the end of the day. and it would fit very well to what I'm thinking about. Man, I've been thinking, I'm not gonna do this just yet, but I've been thinking what to do with Thursday stream. Today's Tuesday, right? Thursday is the other day of the week that I stream. Because I've been thinking about it, right? I've been doing pixel art on Tuesday last year because I had to stream at an odd time and I figured the pixel art. All you can do is Bikiba. Ah, thank you. Because I used to play games. I used to play game on Tuesday. It used to be just Thursday was the only day that I would stream pixel art. But because of some scheduling, I ended up started doing more pixel art streams. And it felt like people really like those. Because either because they like watching me do art, or because I can talk more while I'm working on art. Whichever the case. It felt like it happened because the time to actually be able to come see my stream was a little bit awkward, right? Okay, so what I want to do. People check specific games, but art is multiversal, so checks out. Yeah. That too. Okay, so here's what I think I want to do. I want to make sure... Oops. Why did I select everything? I want to make sure I get more trees, more of the smaller trees here, because it's going back. And we want to do... Okay, seriously, why does it keep doing that? I'm pretty sure there we go. Yeah. Art is multiversal. So I'm gonna do this. We're gonna delete this part here. So I can do more of this. But yeah. And because of that, I have no idea what you can do for Thursday. So, here's what I've been thinking. What? Okay, Theribot banned a bot. Thank you, Theribot. I'm Wolf. I'm stuck on a Game Boy. Help. Hold up. I'm stuck on a Game Boy. There we go. Yeah, because I've been playing a Game Boy game called Sword of Truth, right? So I put myself on the Game Boy to look cuter, but I got stuck. But yeah. So, if you've been to my channel for a while, you might know that I've been trying to make a game, a small lore game, that I keep postponing for a number of reasons. Sometimes it's because I actually get a lot of commissions and I prioritize those, right? Sometimes it's because I thought of a really cool idea, but then I can't figure out how to make that idea work. So I postpone everything until I can find a way to put the idea to work. And I was thinking, how the hell am I gonna get myself to finish that, right? So in theory, I could try to make a game developer day on Tuesday. Let me just check if Tuesday is the day that I think it is. Tuesday. No, Thursday. On Thursday. I could make Thursdays the days that I work on the game, right? At least work on the game if I don't have like some sort of urgent commission or anything like that. Then I work on the game. Because at least that way I will do some amount of progress weekly, right? And maybe we have a game at the end of all this, or at least I learn a valuable lesson about how the frick you're supposed to use RPG Maker. Yeah, but I think we're gonna make all commissions an emergency. I will admit, I'll be the first one to admit, that that is part of how I do things, honestly. That is part of how I do things, yes. I finished them early for a reason. I put every commission as like highest priority. I have a time that I leave to work on stuff. And if there is a commission, I work on it. The tricky part is when I get more than one commission. Because then I have to figure out which one to work on first. That is the tricky one. So far, what I do is I try to devote an equal... Whenever I have multiple commissions, I try to devote an equal amount of time to them. Based on... Of course, a few modifiers, like for instance, if I can stream the commission or not is very important. Because the commissions that I can stream, I do it on stream, and that means they can finish early. Compared to commissions where I can't do that. But yeah. Does anyone else hear the guy singing pronouns? Pronouns, pronouns. Go. There we go. But yeah. But at the same time, it would at least mean that on weeks where I don't have any commission or something like that, I would at least not forget that I have a game I could be working on. Which is already a lot, because I do that sometimes. So, we'll see. I do want to ask if there is interest in that. Because I don't know, because like making a game is kind of a content that's not necessarily for everyone, right? So there's also that. And pixel art has been working fine, I'm not gonna lie. For green, the darkest color we have is this one. Interesting. So we are gonna need to maybe work on the game on a Thursday then. Yeah. Pixel art one day, game the other. Could work fine. Could work fine. But anyways, this is still very early in idealization, let's say. Because boy, the game that I have is using art from like, I wanna say like 4 years ago, something like that. It's not too bad, but it is a little bit rough. I could still use it as like placeholder, though, because that helps a lot, having placeholder art. That was like my biggest mistake when I started making the game, because I started doing the art first. I wanted to do something small, but I underestimated my own expectations. I will put it like that. I thought I would be able to churn out something that's like succinct, tiny, in like 3 months or something like that. But then I start overcomplicating it for myself too. And then I kind of started wanting to do more with the game than what I was originally going to do. Then a lot of stuff happened, and I feel like I want to change some parts of the story because of stuff that happened. So yeah, it's a little bit of a mess. I want to see if I can try to work on it, but at the same time I don't want to overpromise anything, basically. Is it like this a little bit better than just this little? Yeah, it is, it is. Oh yeah, I think this leaf looks cute. It does look very cute, actually. Okay, let's do more complicated leaf patterns here. But yeah, hope you guys had a lovely weekend, by the way. Momochi already talked about this on her stream, but I am gonna talk on my stream too. This season is the season of sequels, because, oh my god, the new stuff is kinda oof. Anime-wise, it's a little bit rough. It's a little bit rough. I did find one anime that looked pretty interesting, though. It was called The Demon Lord's Daughter Is Too Kind. It's sort of a wholesome comedy anime, where basically it takes that basic premise of JRPG of there being a demon lord to be stopped, and goes from the side of the demon lord, where he is facing a terrible issue. The demon lord has a daughter. It's a tiny little thing, very small. And he has an issue because, one, he is very protective of her. he can't say no to her. He is like an all-father, even though he is a demon lord and technically he's evil. But the issue is the girl is like Jesus incarnate in terms of goodness. Like, she will literally heal the sick and use magic to cause miracles. And she will absolutely become a Disney princess where just the pureness of her heart will cause woodland creatures to follow her. And he is very worried because he's afraid she won't be a proper demon if she keeps heading down this path. So he forces one of his general, it's a blonde demon lady, to try to teach his daughter how to be evil. And it's one of those anime where it's like one joke over and over. The joke being that they just keep failing, and the girl keeps, and the daughter just keeps making the lives of people, the lives of humans in a village that she's supposed to terrorize better every step along the way. And she absolutely knows she's doing good. It's not the kind of, haha, I'm gonna be evil. It's just that she is like a little... You know that ADHD child thing where you're like explaining stuff to her, to the child, and then she goes, I understand, and then goes and does the exact opposite. It's kind of like that. I thought it was pretty cute. I thought it was a pretty cute. However, do not confuse this anime with the bait anime of the season, which is, I think it's like Father at 29 working in a dungeon. That one, I think it's causing a little bit of a stir. I think it's causing a little bit of a stir at the moment. I heard it's causing a little bit of a stir at the moment with the very interesting choice that the author had of making the adoptive daughter child of the anime be of Succubus race and having a full-grown version. And I don't know what's gonna happen next, and I'm afraid to ask. I'm very afraid to ask. My morbid curiosity is saying that I should try to watch one more before making judgment, but... Ooh, am I afraid? Am I afraid? Because the anime starts kind of wholesome. I mean, about as wholesome as it is to... not forced child labor, but apprenticeship, to say the adventurer apprenticeship, I guess is the best way to put it. Basically, it doesn't start bad, but the plot twist makes suddenly you can't really trust the author as much with keeping things tasteful. You know what I mean? I'm 95% sure he just wants to do some weird dirty jokes for laughs, but I don't know. You're really reaching the Woody Allen line, you know? At that point. At that point, you're reaching the Woody Allen line. Other than that, there's one thing I don't understand is there's a lot of visual novel anime that comes out. It's always visual novel. Where a single plot beat becomes a genre. I find that very funny, but also very weird. Because it's like, oh, I've seen this anime before, but this one is trying to iterate the story of that anime by adding these elements instead. It's like if the music industry were nothing but remixes of the same song, and you can kind of find choice and variety amongst that, but you are still technically listening to the same music over and over. So that is weird. That is weird. The current genre that's being copied to that is the... I was kicked out of my party because my party does not understand how super special awesome I secretly am. And usually it revolves around someone in the party being extremely selfish and not understanding all the things I sacrificed for them, essentially. So, the main one this season is one. The main one that of this kind of spicy season is... I don't even remember the name, but essentially it's a girl. The girl was picked to be one of the heroes that will save the world. But her stat sucks, basically. Her stats suck, and she has a special perk skill, a JoJo power, if you will. Her stand power is called reverse, and she doesn't know what it does. It doesn't seem to do anything. Except to make all her stats 0, because you can see your stats in this. It's interesting. I think this genre is called lit RPG, where you have video game elements, right? It's inspired by because a lot of these writers played a lot of Dragon Quest in particular in their childhood. And they can use the medium of like video game interface and stuff like that to communicate plot beats like character progress, learning new skills. It appears on a menu and you can use it. You can figure out what are your limitations of magic because you literally have mana. So mana management can be used to create tension. I haven't seen it be properly used to create tension, but I'm pretty sure it's a thing that can be done. Right? And stuff like that, So, this one, I kinda like it, but at the same time, I'm liking it while also on the back of my head being like, yeah, but I saw this plot a few times over already with varying protagonists and varying results. Like, sometimes the protagonist will be kicked out of the hero party and will actually just fuck off and play Farmville instead of trying to save the world. There was one where that actually happened. And it was honestly really, really wholesome until the yandere incest overpowered little sister plotline was introduced. Oh, anime never change. Never change, anime. Never change. I have a lot of patience for watching stuff that is not necessarily stellar. sometimes it pays off. Sometimes it pays off. I have this thing where I have to watch every new anime of the season because every so often there are some hidden gems that people don't necessarily talk about but are actually really, really good. And the only way you can find these hidden gems is if you unequivocally give a fair chance to everything. And that means sitting through stuff that is pretty trashy, that sounds like it's pretty trashy because of the name, and confirming that it is in fact trashy, but sometimes you will find stuff that's actually decent. Like for instance, there was this one season, had this anime on Netflix. No, it was Crunchyroll. It was on Crunchyroll actually. That was called Detectives These Days Are Crazy. And if that sounds like a very unappealing name for you for a TV series, because it's kinda is, it's not a very good name, right? But the anime turns out was actually pretty decent. It kind of reminds me of Gintama with the sense of humor that they use is very Gintama-esque. If you like Gintama, you'll probably like it. However, for some unfathomable reason, the first episode of the anime is based on the pilot for the show. And the thing about show pilots is that they're usually not canon. They're like a first draft of what the mangaka is trying to do. And then people are like, okay, this has potential, but really, you should not do X, Y, and Z. Which you can see because the characters' dynamics change dramatically from like episode 1 to episode 2. There was one prevalent dirty joke on the first episode that just fades away. You know, like the meme of the guy who does the peace out and then just goes and you never see him again anymore? Yeah, the joke does that. It just stopped existing. Probably because someone was like, you know what, dude? That joke, not really that funny. Doesn't really do much. I think that it would be better if these two characters related on a different level. So basically, the joke is... Okay, so let me talk about the anime first, so you guys can be on the same page as I am, right? So the main idea of the anime is that Detective Conan retires, essentially. So you have this guy who used to be this hotshot, super anime detective that went to all the places where all the murders happen and he could solve them all. He was considered the prodigy of his time. He was awesome, super amazing. Unfortunately, he is way past his prime. His detectiving style is somewhat extremely outdated, and worst of all, his back is like really crappy from sitting on a chair on the office waiting for cases to come along, right? You really should go hit the gym, honestly. As someone who had a lot of bad back problems myself, hit the gym if you can. At least try to find a exercise routine that works for you, because the more you delay that, the worse it gets. The worse it gets. But I digress. So my dude is a little bit crusty. He still wants to be a detective, though. He just doesn't want to quit. And this girl shows up in his office one day and she is like, I really admire your detective work. I want to be your assistant. I want to reignite the fire that you had for solving mysteries. And let's go solve some mysteries together. And from there on out, right, the dynamic that works with them is him being kind of like a crusty father figure that's a little bit childish and a little bit wrong. Basically Gintama. Gintama is kind of like that, where Gintoki is like a retired badass, but he is both a man-child and extremely out of touch, and the comedy comes from that. It's a really good show, by the way. Very intimidating to get into because it has way too many episodes, but it's still a really good show. I really like Gintama. And that show has that dynamic, and it's pretty awesome. But on the first episode, for some reason, even though the girl really doesn't look like a Gyaru, the protagonist keeps calling her a Gyaru and kind of keeps alluring her, doing like pervy old man jokes, right? But it doesn't really work, particularly in the context that she sees him as a mentor and stuff like that. It becomes like a little bit too. It doesn't. It's not that funny. It's not just that it's a little bit uncomfortable. It's that it's not funny too. You know what I mean? It's not a good bit. It's not a good bit. So from the second episode onwards, that dynamic is just not there anymore. It just goes poof, like it never happens. You feel almost gaslit. You feel almost gaslit. But the issue, and like, I don't care. That's good. It was a good change. It was a good change. Unfortunately, it was preserved on the first episode of the show, which is the first thing you're gonna watch, and you're gonna be like, wow, how are you supposed to know that the first episode is technically the beta of the show? So I figure there's a lot of people who drop the first episode because the first episode wasn't that funny. But the show actually is pretty funny. So you really gotta watch the second episode. You kind of gotta pull through the first episode in order to understand like the basis of like who is who and whatnot. But after that, the dynamic just changes entirely. And it's just a different show. So now, I kind of want to add a gate here. And we can add the gate. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Also, I do hope you guys appreciate the ranting. I know I talk a lot about anime, but I do have like a genuine interest in writing stories and stuff like that, right? So I end up using anime as like the medium to discuss that a little bit. There we go. Yeah. Oh yeah, on a completely different note, one of the Christmas gifts that I got, right, was a game that I remember that I used to have, but then longest time ago, I sold it to feed my Yu-Gi-Oh addiction. No, actually it wasn't even Yu-Gi-Oh, I think it was Cardfight Vanguard. Anyways, I sold it to feed my Cardfight Vanguard edition, and I ended up regretting doing that, honestly. I did end up regretting doing that a lot, and I was talking about it with Momoshi, and she kindly bought the game for me for Christmas. And the game in question was South Park's Fractured Butthole. The main thing that I remembered from that game was the fact that it had like a very comprehensive system where you could like pick different superhero classes for you to play as. And I remember having a lot of fun with that, and I wanted to tackle it again, right? So she found one at the used game bargain bin, essentially, and bought it for cheap and added it to my Christmas gift. My main Christmas gift was Final Fantasy Tactics, which I do want to play on stream. I do want to play it on stream with you guys too. If you guys want, that is. If not, then I'll play it on my own time. There is no need to worry about that. If there is no interest in Final Fantasy Tactics, then I'll play it on my time. But if there is, I might play it on stream. And it's a fun game, but there are things about the design that are very... I mean, it's Ubisoft, so obviously there are a bunch of stuff that is AAA. But the thing that I found most interesting about the game was the fact that it was doing some hard parodying of like Marvel stuff that was happening, like the whole cinematic universe, Marvel Cinematic Universe. They were making so much fun of it. They were mocking it so much. And you know what? Even though the game was from 2017, every single joke landed about the same. As if the game was made yesterday. Every single joke they made was still relevant. And I'm like, what the frick? What do you mean? Because like the children, they are being superhero, but the only reason they are being superheroes is because they want to promote their franchise. Like being a part of being a superhero is to promote your franchise. And getting rich off your franchise, getting rich off making movies and selling toys. So, in a sense, they're like super corrupt heroes, right? Cartman being obviously the worst, because Cartman is the worst. That is his role in the show, is to just be the absolute worst. Just awful. Just an awful kid. Awful kid, awful human being. And the main plot twist was that Cartman was playing as the hero and the villain Because if his whole scheme was to create crime in South Park, so there would be need of heroes. Heroes need a supervillain, essentially, right, for them to be relevant. Otherwise, why would you need why would you need them? And yeah. But like, just everyone, there are two superhero teams that are at odds with each other because they believe that their franchise name is better and they're gonna make more money than the other. And it's like, who has the best superhero team? Who has the thing that will make the most amount of money? It's so dumb, it's so funny. It's so funny. And there is just the general confusion of like, okay, technically it's they're role playing, but at the same time there are people who aren't role playing who are being affected by these powers, even though some of these powers are like literally throwing confetti and glitter at the opponent's face, but it still works. It is confusing in a very lovable way, you know? It's lovably confusing. Yeah, I think 2 pixels is better. Yeah, there we go. Perspective is very important. So yeah, I finished my art lessons for... I finished my art lessons of Introduction to Art, essentially. And I believe that I learned useful things in that class. We are gonna see. How much I truly learned, because we are gonna try to put all the principles in practice here. There were things that I kinda knew because I'm self-taught, but at the same time, the issue when you're self-taught is that you know certain things, you don't necessarily know how you make them. You just kinda make them, and that is a little bit flimsy. That is a little bit the knowledge gets a little bit flimsy because of that. And understanding better why you do the things you do means you're able to replicate them properly. Art is tricky. It is tricky. There we go. There we go. We got a little gate here. Let's see. What else can we put to add more element? I think something here would be nice. Over here we can add something small, maybe a little rock. Let's add a little rock here. There we go, tiny little boulder here. And we do it like this. Oh, you know what's kind of interesting? That I was watching some. I was doing some. Honestly, I was just sticking around. Essentially, I can't really call that research. But I was looking at some videos about writing and stuff like that. And I saw, let's say, some fresh perspectives on writing. And I didn't agree necessarily with everything the person in the video said, but in every video that I watched from them. But there was one key thing that I thought was like really good, that I took away from it. That was a little bit how people over-rely on formulas for writing stories, right? You got like stuff like Hero's Journey, and the 3-act, where the hero's journey and the 3-act story, stuff like that, right? And the main thing this person was talking about that I thought was pretty interesting was that essentially the really good stories, the really like culturally relevant stories, don't actually care about all this shit. They don't actually care about all this shit. Most, even like stories that you could point to as like being the source of these these recipes for writing stories, the author didn't make the formula first and wrote it following it. The author just wrote a story, and some people retroactively created a formula based on what they thought worked about the guy's story. And in doing so, but when you start thinking about it like this way, right, you start to think also about some things like, but did the person who made the formula actually figured out what made the story good? What made the story appealing? Or did they make a gross mistake along the way? Right? And how far does following the formula actually gets you? So those were things that it gave me pause to think about, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I thought it was like a pretty interesting video. I want to do like a little statue here. Maybe we can do like a little lamp. Oh wait, hold up. Yeah, this is gonna be like a bad thing later. There we go. Okay, so I think I want to follow the escape line here. Oh yeah, do you guys want to know what type of principle I'm applying to the scene composition? Basically, principle number 1, asymmetry usually feels better for this type of backdrop, right? Because I could like make the house right in the middle and everything all lined up properly. That can work too, but like asymmetrical like this feels organic, and it's like satisfies like a little bit of a niche in our brain. It feels nicer to look at things that are a little bit asymmetrical. Too much symmetry actually makes your head hurt, actually. It's kind of funny. So the other thing is that usually it's very good when the drawing has pets in it. Like, not pets in this sense necessarily, but more like, let me put it this way. So the temple walls are heading in this direction, right? Balls are heading in this direction. And then they go in this direction right here, right? So there is like a path where your eyes follow, like this. And the trees, I am trying to make them follow more or less like that. Speaking of which, should probably make like smaller trees in some of the back. Kind of like this. And also work. Only issue being that I can't really make them darker because of the palette restrictions. Theoretically could make this smaller. That doesn't make it darker though, that makes it more alive. Ah, yeah, that is why I ended up picking this color for this. Okay. Palette restriction aside. And make this one a bit thinner. Yeah, thinner works. We make this thinner. Yeah, so as you can see, there is like a logic to this madness. You can also, depending on the palette, you can also make it more less bright. So let's say we reduce the colors here because it's a little far away. So we reduce the details. That works. But also make this one more like this. So it's getting more shadow to look like it's more on the back. And like this. And it does work somewhat. Man, it's really funny. Final Fantasy VIII was so divisive way back in the day. It was so divisive. There were like the people who were like diehard haters of Final Fantasy VIII and people who were diehard defenders. It was very divisive, and it's so funny. I mean, it's not as funny as people who liked Final Fantasy but hated anime. Those will always hold a special place in my heart. Those will absolutely always hold a special place in my heart because they were like, no, but Final Fantasy is an anime. I swear. The first games didn't have anime art. It's like, it is within the context of Japanese culture. It wasn't exactly made to satiate Western sensibilities, let's just put it like that. Either. They're just doing their own thing. Final Fantasy was its own thing, and if they decide to change it to be a little bit more anime, that's completely fine. Which they did. But I remember it was like a huge deal to some people. Man, there were content creators who actually got big on hating Final Fantasy VIII and Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X was actually pretty well made, but yeah, internet was interesting. The internet, it still is pretty interesting in its own sense, but yeah, no. Okay, so I do want to make this more interesting. We could add one of those garden lamps outside here. Would be pretty cute, pretty neat. So we're using the 4. So we can do this. I am old. I'll never lie about that. I was there lurking in the corner when a bunch of stuff was crawling about. I seen some weird trends from some weird niche things. I've seen a man wage a personal war against kids next door because he swore they were stealing his characters because one girl had a sweater that was the same design of green sweater as Daryl C. And what was really funny was that person's paranoia wasn't completely unwarranted for. You heard me and you're like, wait, what? What do you mean? Well, they had their OCs and they had a self-insert. It was very common to have self-inserts in webcomics way back in the day. Some webcomics were literally the playground of the author. The author would just be like, I'm gonna put every character I like from my animals into this, and if I want, I've seen people who literally made their webcomic be ecchi anime where their self-insert is regaled with catgirls. There was a guy who had a webcomic called Neko's House, and the webcomic basically followed perfectly the formatting of ecchi anime, ecchi dating anime, and he put himself as the main character, who is also a stud and gets all the girls. And it was a sprite comic, by the way. It was now in pixel art. In case you're wondering, but how does this relate to this pixel art string at all? There you go. That's the link. Aren't you glad you know that now? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. So it was like a very much a case of common practice to do this kind of stuff. This guy just liked to write their OCs bullying characters from different anime franchises, including Kagome from Inuyasha. The author had a very irrational hatred of her, one which even he did not understand why. So it was just like a running gag to bully her for no reason. He even made her nice. He didn't like make her a bitch or anything like that, which would be like grounds for justifying the bullying, but no. And he had an OC that was basically the god of that world because he was literally the author. And he had this beef with the kids next door because one of his character, which was a tiny cat girl, had the same sweater that one of the female leads of the Kids Next Door had, the same green sweater. If you've ever seen Kids Next Door, you will know which character I'm talking about. Why am I not being able to make a proper cube with these proportions? So here's the funny part, right? The sweater, honestly, 100% completely accidental. There is like no way, right? It was a very basic oversized sweater design. It's like a very cute, very simple design that anyone could come up with, honestly. So there is like no way. Right? No way that is not just a coincidence. However, the self-insert of the author wore black glasses, a black bandana, and had a white t-shirt with brown pants. Right? So it was a more complicated look. Thank you for the pet, Lunatic. More complex look, right? And in one episode, there was a kid wearing the exact same clothes as the self-insert from the webcomic guy. I don't know if I can't prove, allegedly, in a dream in Minecraft, someone from the show accidentally clicked on this guy's webcomic, saw him harping about how they were stealing his design and decided to play a practical prank on him and insert him as a character in a single episode of Kid Next Door. He never appears again. He appears in one single episode and never again. And it left the guy fuming. Like he was like tinfoil hat wearing at that point. It was a good troll. Not gonna lie, it was a good troll. Maybe he actually knew someone from the team and he was just doing that as a bit. And because that kind of was a thing. I remember way back in the day when like the two most influential figures of the internet were Nostalgia Critic and the Angry Video Game Nerd, right? People, their fans actually started beefing with each other because they were like trying to figure out who came first, the chicken or the egg. Because both the Angry Video Game Nerd and the Nostalgia Critic used rage style reviewing. I guess it's the best way to describe their formatting. But people found that their format was somewhat similar because the format was basically using being excessively angry at minor nuisances in their mediums to create comedic effect, right? And they're like, you can't do that. Angry Video Game Nerd already does that. What are you talking about? The Angry Video Game Nerd can do that. The Nostalgia Critic already does that. It was that level of like petty drama. And what they did was, the way they resolved this essentially was that they decided to milk that a bit, and then they make like a huge collab together where they were fighting each other. It was like a Marvel crossover kind of situation where your heroes meet to beat the crap out of each other, even though it wouldn't be the most heroic thing for them to do. It actually reminds me, have you guys ever stumbled upon the weird rivalry between Dragon Ball Z and Superman? Have you guys ever stumbled upon that? Back in the day, people used to care so much about who could win in a fight, Goku or Superman. People would write fan comics about it, and usually when they would write fan comics about it, it would always be in like a holier than thou tone with the other person's franchise. Like Superman, more like that super loser. Goku would beat them in a second, and then the other guy would be like, "Ha, your puny Saiyan is no match for my mighty Kryptonian. Goku is a jerk and is gonna do bad things just to try to get Superman riled up. And the second that Superman gets riled up, then Goku is gonna be in complete trouble." Ended up being like this weird situation where both sides would mischaracterize each other's characters to try and make the character that they like it look better, essentially. So what am I getting at is that the internet always had a lot of pettiness, but it used to be more amusing to watch people being petty on the internet. The tea was funnier and a little bit more harmless, I think. Although I'm not entirely sure how well that applied to the Angry Video Game Nerd slash nostalgia critic thing. Because I remember that there were people who took those discussions a little bit too seriously, to the point where like both content creators actually started toning down their content, because they were like, oh shit, people are taking us a little bit too seriously. People are relating a little bit too much. I'm not getting this right. This looks like a tomb. I think I remember I seen... I'm not entirely sure when they started doing that they started toning down their content, but they did start toning down their content a lot, because at least according to them, the key thing that they were making fun of weren't the games. They were making fun of people who take these things too seriously. But the audience that they ended up building up with their content were people who took those things too seriously. So it ended up being a situation where the parody got lost in the sauce, right? The parody got lost in the sauce. And I guess because the humor was too subtle, or because there wasn't like because media literacy or whatever. Usually when these things happen, people immediately run to saying that media literacy is dead and stuff like that, right? Which could be a thing. Could be a thing. But I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes media literacy almost feels like an excuse of, oh, why did people misunderstood you so badly? And guy goes, media literacy. I get it, but it does feel like it. Sometimes it does feel a little bit like a cop-out. Okay, so this is a cube. This is a cube we can sculpt or cool lamp out of it. I don't know. Like, for instance, one thing that lives rent-free in my head is the fact that old Greek plays, right? The philosophers made these old Greek plays to communicate morality, teachings of morality to people, right? So they would come up with these plays that had mostly positive stories like don't kill your dad, and don't fuck your mom, you know, just or the gods will be mad, you know, basic morality. Very, very basic morality. But they wanted to make sure that people wouldn't be like, oh, it's so unfair that the gods punish a guy for killing his dad and fucking his mom. So in order to make sure that that didn't happen, they created the fourth wall. That's a term you probably heard before, by the way. You heard the term fourth wall. But what was the fourth wall in its inception? You may be wondering. And the answer may surprise you. The fourth wall was literally a wall that stood between the audience and the play that was formed of masked figures. There would be these masked actors that would act as a literal barrier between the play that was happening and the audience, and they would comment on what was happening. They were the first YouTube React. Just like VTubers react to content today and content creators react to content today, there were people who were dedicated to reacting to what was happening in the play in real time. And these people had a script of what they were supposed to react about the play, what the sensibilities were, and their job was to explain to the audience what the play was trying to tell them. So if a guy goes, "Oh no, woe is me, because of a prophecy, I have killed my dad and fucked my mom. Whatever shall I do now?" The fourth wall would be like, "Yes, his circumstances are unfortunate, and it's partially the king's fault for taking the oracle. Regardless, there is no excuse for his actions, and his curse is more than justified." Right? So there would be like a commenter that would be there to transmit what the author meant with the play. And surprisingly, there would be a lot of rules regarding how these plays were written, because the philosophers at the time were actually very scared of how powerful media can be in teaching things to people. And they were really scared of people getting the wrong takeaway. It's really interesting. I think it's really interesting. So I do think that being overly subtle when you're trying to address like a touchy topic it's its own like little bag of worms. It's like this cute little bag of worms, like of maybe how much do you care of people misunderstanding you, right? And how much can you blame other people? It's honestly there isn't like a good answer for that, right? Because it is a little bit, let's say, condescending to add a React guy to your movie just because you're not entirely sure if people are smart enough to get what you're saying. It's like super condescending. Let's be real. Greek philosophers thought they were hot shit. And that's kind of why Diogenes is a little bit of a hero. Because he took these took a good look at these very condescending people and would put them in their place whenever they were getting a little bit too high and mighty and up their butt, right? Yeah, you had this amazing revelation of how the world works. Well, there is this guy who likes to masturbate in public who disagrees with you and was able to completely own you with facts and logic. That is humbling, to say the least. He was like a huge humbling driving force and for his time period. Okay, there we go. We did it. We managed to make the little lamp thing. Took a little bit longer than I wanted it to, but these are pretty tricky to make in this type of like 3D format. I think I wanna add one here too. Still got a little bit of an issue regarding here. What we could add. You know what we could add? We could add a body of water. Could add like a little lake here. It would probably look pretty nice. A body of water makes sense here. So this is the water. Go. Also, go. Yeah, this works as a shadow. Hold up. Not like that. Like that. Yeah, there we go. There we go. I was misremembering how to do the effect. This is how you do it. Basically, you create like a little shadow on the phone. Yeah, there we go. That's a little bit of extra depth, you know? Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. And I think this is good. I think this is good. We could add a little thing. You know what I'm gonna add? I'm gonna add like a little extra detail inside here. I'm gonna add a training dummy. so it looks a little bit more like a ninja place. We can add some shurikens attached to it too. Because we gotta give the place a little bit of personality. Alright, Lunatic, have a good one. Have a good Nini. Bye-bye. Can do that. Guys, I'm thinking about stealing Momochi's idea. And also do like a pool, like how do you say? Same thing she did essentially, which was a control quality pool regarding content to figure out what I could zone in as a streamer. Because I know there are people who have ideas of what they like and they don't like about my stream and don't want to be rude. Either don't want to be rude or don't want to get in the way, or maybe are unsure, have never thought about it. Right? And that anonymous pool, I thought it was pretty good. Because one, it showed that a lot of people who seem to just say, oh, just do whatever you want, do have actual preferences on what they think would be best for Momochi to focus on. They just don't want to be like the person. But like it is like a kind of an awkward situation where, like, let's say I ask, hey, what kind of content do you want to watch? And you answer sincerely, but then you have to take like a vacation for 5 days. And you don't show up to any of my streams where I'm doing the thing that you asked me to do, and I go like, you lie to me, right? No one wants to live that. No one wants that to happen, right? So completely understandable. Absolutely understandable. You should play Limbus Company. I mean, the main thing about that is, what would I do outside of what Momochi already do? Do the mirror dungeon once a week, right? That one in particular, I don't necessarily feel I have a whole lot more to add. Also, getting your opinions rejected, which I do in a heartbeat sometimes, but should play Library of Ruin again. You know, Lunatic, I'm not gonna lie. I did think about that. I was thinking about that the other day. No. That is... Lobotomy is not my kind of game. Lobotomy is not my kind of game. I am not a managing game. kind of person. There ain't no way. Should play Stars in Time. That is true. That is true. But like, specific games aside, the main thing that would be that one I'd actually like to see. Yeah. Yep. The one thing I would like to see is like a more kind of like, okay, what kind of content do you usually watch me for, right? You should play VTube Studio. Wow, as a matter of fact, Iba hates long-term commitment. For games, you're not necessarily wrong. When we get to 10 years old already. Nah. No. UI 1 for life. UI 1 for life. What do you think I am? Honestly, my main anxiety with playing bigger games is people getting bored with the game I'm playing and just start leaving. But then I stop playing the game and there is like another subsect of people who are really enjoying watching me play the game. And then I get into like this whole, do I keep playing the game to satisfy the people who are watching me, or do I stop playing the game to try to get back the people who stopped watching me? That's something, Honestly, thinking about that makes me quizzy. Play gachas, no commitment, zero story. Not a whole lot of content either. God. And honestly, to be real, I think I remembered I tried playing Limbos a little bit on stream. This one time where I had nothing to stream. It did not go very well, if I recall correctly. Viewership was pretty meh. Good night, Lunatic. Have sweet dreams. Sorry, I didn't mean to hold you. Have a good one. Okay, I think we're done. Oh, this looks pretty cute. This looks pretty cute, honestly. Oh wait, hold up. We're not quite done. There's still one thing. I want to add some dirt effects. Can you imagine doing dirt textures and secretly sneaking in a Morse code message? Because it's mostly dashes and dots. Wouldn't that be crazy? Never do that though, don't worry about it. I would never add a code here. Never would I add a code here. Never. Codes? Nah. Not me, not ever. Here we go. But yeah, the one webcomic guy who had a beef with Kids Next Door from Cartoon Network will always live rent-free in my head. I hope he didn't actually take that seriously and he was just doing it for laughs, because it was genuinely funny, especially the way he put it on his webcomic. It was genuinely hilarious. And I'm pretty sure he was in on the joke. I'm pretty sure he was in on the joke. It's just that with internet, you can never be 100% sure, you know? You can never be 100% sure of the internet, but I'm pretty sure, I'm 95% sure he was in it on the joke. Definitely milk it for content. Instead of like making long rants on a blog or something like that, he would make it on his... He would just put it as part of his webcomic, that stuff happening. And I am 95% sure that everything that happened was a coincidence. It was just a really funny one. Okay, I think we're good. The final thing I could do is add a little bit of green here. But do I want to? Let's see. How does it shape out? I was reminded today that Lost Story exists. Lost Odyssey, sorry, not Lost Story, Lost Odyssey is a game that exists, and it's a pretty darn good game too. It's one of those games that is very off the walls, and that makes it extremely good. Where basically the main premise was figuring out what would be like to be an immortal. You have a main character who is an immortal who lost his memory, which is part of being an immortal. Basically, because you're an immortal and you have too many like experiences, your memory becomes somewhat hazy. Especially because the way that the immortality kind of worked, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong here, it's been a long time, but if I recall correctly, more or less the way the immortality worked was that you were alive, you were living your life, then something happened that might cause you to die. And instead of dying, you go into like hibernation, sort of a hibernation, right? And when you wake up, you end up waking up without the memories. Depending on the gravity. Depending on the gravity of the injury, you would revive without your memories, basically. So this premise pretty much puts the main immortal character as like, something bad happened. We don't know what it is, but the fact that you can't remember anything after you discover this means that something bad happened. And if you try to figure out who you are gonna end up figuring out what the bad thing that happened is. So people say that amnesiac characters get overplayed, and that is somewhat true. Though I don't think in recent media amnesia characters are as much of a staple as they have been before, you know? I think the last big one of sort of amnesia character was in Breath of the Wild, right? I think Link didn't have his full memories. So I guess Link from Breath of the Wild counts as like a more recent example of an amnesia character. They're pretty common in JRPG, and there is a good reason for it. And that reason is it's very much easier to tell a story while introducing elements to your audience if your character is amnesiac, because then he won't ask questions because he's stupid. He has a genuine excuse to not understand the world around him. And speaking of the world around me, I have to take a quick break to eat something, and I will be right back, everyone. Don't go anywhere. I swear, we're gonna start doing our second one very soon. So BRB. Oh my god. I just ate the best waffle with jam. Hey Kai, welcome to the stream. How are you doing? Ha. New empty frame. There we go. I wanna put all my different drawings on the same. I'm good. One of my birthday presents arrived today. Oh, what you get? What you get? What did you get? What did you get? What do you got? What do you got? Hatsune Miku figure? Oh, that's awesome! That is awesome! Someone bought me it off Throne? That is awesome! That is great! That's really cool, Kai. Okay, so remember how I talked about asymmetry for this one was very important? I am gonna break that completely and do a completely symmetrical and start with a very symmetrical drawing and then go to asymmetrical on this one. You got a box of Yu-Gi-Oh cards that got held up at the post office because of a custom charge. Ah, yeah. Yeah, that will happen. That will happen. Man, been there, done that. So often. So often. Here in Brazil in particular. We would get stuff held all the time. Okay, so one cool situation where where doing things in a more parallel fashion works really well is when you do it in a sort of pyramid sense. It makes no sense because the Mickey figure is also the same company that shipped the cards, so why the cards got hit with a constant charge? Ah, honestly, can I be real with you? 95% out of the times that something like this happened, it's just that someone who was working at the post office was having a bad day. Especially when it comes to like this post office stuff, like it's very up to the person. Yeah. Yeah, that would happen a lot with me and Momochi when we imported stuff when we played card games too. Yeah, because I want the line to end outside. Yeah, they're gonna converge at one point, but I don't want them converging inside the drawing. Sup, Kai? I have 4 out of the 5 dragons from the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's protagonist. Oh, very nice, very nice. Which is the one that's missing? Stardust Dragon, Black Rose Dragon, Ancient Fairy Dragon, and Red Dragon Archfiend. Oh, I see, I see, I see. Ah, Blackwing Dragon. Man, Blackwing Dragon Blackwing Dragon was so interesting. It had such an unique effect that no one actually knew how to make it work. Was a rather funny card. I don't even remember if in the anime they managed to make his effect useful. Because it was such a specific counter. Okay, so let me see if I remember correctly how to do this. First things first, we do this. Then I want to do this. No, I want to do this. There we go.
Almighty protector of the sun and the sky, I beg of thee, please heed my cry. Transform thyself from orb of light and bring me victory in this fight. I beseech thee, grace our humble game, but first I shall call out thy name, Wind Dragon of Ha.
You know, I am kind of tempted to try and forge a Orion deck because apparently the Orion cards make it easier to summon Ra. It's not the best way to play Orion, but the best way to play Orion doesn't make much sense, if you know what I mean. It just seems like a neat thing to do. What? You missed it, or you missed it. Hold up. Thank you for the hydrate. Thank you. Okay, so basically... And thank you for the pet. Uh-oh, hold up. Ouch. Okay, now I'm good. So. I am super tempted to make an Orion deck partially because of this. Partially because I dig Orion style. I like the... it's one of the things that I always thought were like really interesting in Yu-Gi-Oh! Was like trap monsters. I don't know, there is something about the game design of making a card that is meant to behave in one way, behave in a completely different way. Ow. Something about that is I find very appealing. I find it very appealing. That and Stone Statue Pattern of Anguish, I think it's like a very powerful card that still hasn't lived up to its true potential. And you can actually use that in the Orion deck. Yeah! Cool, dude. Just pop in to say hi, Kibbles. Have a wonderful day. Okay, Zor, have a wonderful day too. Bye-bye. But yeah. Now let's see. Man, you know, the part that I miss the most about card games is the animes. I miss card game anime so much. But I don't know, watching card game anime like Vanguard without playing, there's a lot of flavor loss, because unfortunately at the end of the day, it is like just a huge infomercial for the cards. Unfortunately, the truth of the matter is that that it is hard to enjoy card game anime in full without at least feeling like wanting to buy cards. You know what I mean? Or maybe I outgrew then a little bit. That's probably also part of it too. Okay. Let's see. I do miss the tropes though. Speaking of tropes, I was talking about, if I'm not mistaken, I was talking about the... Oh, I made a mistake. I made a mistake here in the composition. Hold up. There we go. We need to do this in a different layer. I think I want to do this on this layer. And in particular for this first one, because like this here is the symmetry part. Now I need to put the asymmetry, and we're gonna do the asymmetry with the trees. Basically what we're trying to draw here is a path, a twisted path of trees that heads into the horizon. I'm gonna put like some sort of dark castle in the horizon over here. And maybe I'll actually add a crossroad. Could be cool too. But let's start with the basics. So yeah. Oh, if it's nighttime, let me use the nighttime grass. There we go. That's right, I wanted it to be nighttime. So nighttime grass here. Now, what I was talking about characters with amnesia before I interrupted myself to go eat some waffles. And characters with amnesias are very handy for writers and authors who need to explain a lot of their world in order for the plot to make any sense, right, for the person. But they don't really just want to have characters explaining what they already know, because that is usually rather boring. It's rather boring. It is not considered peak writing. It can be done. It can be done to an extent, but it's not exactly... It's frowned upon. Let's be real here. And amnesia characters give you like a good excuse, right? Like in the case of Lost Odyssey, the fact that you're an immortal, you're not entirely sure that you're an immortal, you're not entirely sure how your powers work, so there is like a lot of tension to be extracted from not really fully grasping what's going on in the plot and the story, and only going off and your own motivation being some vague sense of what your identity might be, and something that you slightly remember that could lead you. It's amazing. It's amazing. If you have amnesia, you have a clear goal, which is figuring out who the fuck you are. You have the excuse for any and every type of exposition to be brought up at any time, because you may not understand what's going, your main character doesn't understand what's going on, so you can project questions that your audience might have onto the characters with no issue, without it feeling forced, and it's just handy to move the plot along. It is just handy. It's super handy. There are some other sneaky tricks that authors use to make sure, in fantasy, to make sure that you can squeeze in that explanation of how the world works without it being like two people talking about things they already know. A lot of people really harp on the "as you know" part of the dialogue tree, right? Because if I know this, why are you telling me? Unless you're being a condescending asshole. But then you have to include a lot of condescending assholes in your story in order to get exposition across. And maybe your audience doesn't like that because they have to listen to condescending assholes, and people generally don't like to listen to condescending assholes. So that is an issue. The other one is the farm boy. The farm boy is a very basic trope in fantasy, where it's like, oh, your character has lived a sheltered life, so they do not know of the monsters that exist in the under. So the young farm boy needs to be mentored into understanding how the world works so they can stop the big threat, and that means we can info dump everything so that both the audience and the main character can be on par with what the plot is about and what their goals are supposed to be. In anime, we have another cool trick for exposition, which is the super awesome magical military school. In the super awesome military magic school, the main character will learn to fight against the badgies, the bad guys. So they will learn how their powers are supposed to work, and they will learn convenient plot hooks every time. But if you need a tutorial on how something works for the plot to move along, you can literally just have a scene in the school where a teacher is teaching exactly that. It's very convenient. It's very convenient. It is ham-fisted as fuck, but it's very convenient. Which is also why there's a lot of anime that happens in fantastical school settings. It's just a handy trick. It's just a handy trick to make the exposition feel organic and palatable at the same time. It's organic and not very organic at the same time, because technically it's still a tutorial. you're still forcing your audience through a tutorial, but you're forcing your audience through a tutorial with the protagonist because the protagonist needs to watch the tutorial as well. So that kind of works. Even like, I don't know, let's say your character is part of a super agency and they take on a mission, right? So theoretically, you're opening yourself to make a scene that is the mission summary, and the mission summary will explain stuff for the audience. There are like, there's a lot of different ways to insert exposition into the story through different means, just so everyone can be on the same pace. Shaman King, I remembered, used a lot of different ways. When the show started, the main way that exposition would happen was that we didn't actually follow the protagonist's POV. We followed the protagonist's new friend, Manta, who was a regular person and was being introduced to the world of shamans along with the audience. So he was a surrogated POV. Because despite everything, Yo was supposed to be a shaman for a long time. What he actually knew about being a shaman was somewhat limited, as we learn in the other episodes. But he was still, he wouldn't, like, he was used to ghosts, he was used to the whole shaman powers and situations. So the author thought that it would be better to have the point of view of someone who like had no idea what was going on. So it would make explaining things easier. And that's what they did. That's what they did. And it works for the most part. For the most part, it works. I'm trying to remember what was the other trick for like quick and easy exposition. But I think those are like the main tricks. Oh yeah. There is one other. The isekai. Being an isekai is its own excuse for having a bunch of exposition regarding the world, because the character is not from the world, so he wouldn't know how things work, and that means there's plenty of room for them and the audience to learn more about the world. The funny thing about isekais, though, is that they tend to make their world so painfully generic that the character has to learn about the world, but the audience doesn't. There is like a disconnect there. It's like, those green guys who attack people at random, they are orcs. Do you know what a orc is, main character? And people are like, and everyone in the audience is like, yes. And the main character is like, no, what is an orc? Can you please explain me this foreign concept of an orc? What is a fairy? A fairy, you say? What does it mean? And you're like, you're chained down to the protagonist who never read any fantasy story in their whole lifetime, while the guy explains the very basic stuff, and it's like, yeah, magic has 4 elements. Can you guess the 4 elements? Fire, air, water, and earth. I know, shocking, right? So original. Wow, such an amazing concept. And you're like, And you kind of have to pay a little bit of attention if you're even slightly invested in the story, because maybe there is something. Maybe there's something there that's a little bit different from what everyone else has done so far. There probably won't be, but maybe there is. And off the chance that there is, and you might actually get lost, you're probably not getting lost, but you could get lost, you kind of have to pay attention, and it can be a pain in the ass. It can be a real pain in the ass. One anime that I watched last year that I thought did a really good job of like expositioning things and then using them properly was... Oh god damn it, what was the name? It was an anime based on Amino Senbei with Sanmei? Not Senbei, sorry. Senbei is a Japanese like little biscuit. Hold up, let me get the name of that anime real quick. Netflix. Omni OG. Oh, it's literally called Omni OG? Oh. Okay. Yeah, Abeno Seimei, sorry. Not Amino Senbei. I think Amino Senbei means Biscuit Rain. Would have been a very different anime if that was the name of it. I assure you. But yeah, the anime is just called Omnioji, and although technically Omniojis are part of Japanese culture, and the concept of Oni is very well diffused and stuff like that, the author had a few of their own takes to the mythology of it, so they did a good amount of effort explaining what was different, what was the same, making sure every single terminology was done correctly. And they didn't do that in like an extremely boring way. Basically, they weaved a really good story where they would insert new concepts in the story through making use of the episodic nature of the show, right? So it was like, oh, in this part of the show, this happens when this Oni does this thing, and it becomes like part of the story. Okay, so some Onis can do this shit, right? And then there is a rival Omnioji that uses this spell against the protagonist in this episode. And then it's kind of like, okay, so it's established that this spell can exist and it can work in this particular way. So it builds up every little thing very slowly, very methodically, and then it uses the things it built up on. Because the key idea of the show is it's kind of like a supernatural detective deal. And the problem with making a supernatural detective show or like a magical detective show is that magic and supernatural don't follow regular world rules. They have their own rules. and you're not really gonna be able to like put things together in the same way that you would in a mystery, right? If you have like a huge mystery regarding how someone got killed with the use of magic, you need to understand what magic can and can't do before you can even consider this a mystery, because otherwise the protagonist is gonna waltz up and be like, ah yes, the villain used the rabbit hat trick. The rabbit was holding a machine gun inside the top hat the whole time, and when the person pulled the top hat, put the top hat in their head, the rabbit teleported magically on top of them and gunned them down with a magical shotgun or whatever. And you're gonna be like, wow, that I just heard right there, that was a load of garbage. Why would I even bother trying to make sense of what's happening in this, right? And that's kind of sad, because part of the fun of like mystery series is for there to be like a way that you can sort of deduce what is happening. A lot of people complain about this, by the way, when like TV shows of like really smart characters, they come to like the most impossible to reach conclusions because they literally have the script in their hands. The only way they could conveniently come up with the answer for this mystery is because they have the script in their hands and they just know, right? That sort of stuff. That usually feels like really cheesy, and you feel cheated if you're trying to solve the mystery yourself. But so supernatural detective anime will be the number one type of anime that would number one type of story that would fall into this pitfall. But this anime figured out a good way to do this. So like you have some interesting hints of stuff that's gonna happen. There are like when something is like very new to the person who is watching, it won't be built up as like a mystery that you can solve. It will just be something that only the protagonist knows the answer, and that's completely fine. But then when you start to learn a bit more about the world and how things work, you can kind of start to make stuff out. And since the author actually reuses a lot of elements that they introduced previously in the story, you can see it coming. It is absolutely done on purpose, and I thought it was very cute, particularly with the way they made the ending. Because they made an ending where you could see it coming. Because everything that happened at the climax were things that happened before in the show, and if you were paying attention, you'd absolutely be able to figure out, to be like, when you see like the answer, you're like, ah, because of that thing, I get it. You're not just like, ah, that was some magic bullshit right there. There was a good effort in keeping things foreshadowed too, which I thought was really nice. There is a point where one of the main characters die, and it is, and like there is a forbidden way to revive said character, but a terrible price must be paid. Usually in stories like that, this would come out of nowhere. But this ritual was actually brought up like 7 times earlier on in the story. So by the time that they say we're gonna have to resort to that one ritual, you're already familiar to it. You're familiar with it. And you're like, ah, yeah, that thing. Ah, that's the thing they were talking about earlier. Wow, they're actually gonna do it? Whoa, I kinda wanna see it. You know, the kind of stuff. It wasn't like, wow, this is Shakespeare. This is the best story known to man. But it was like very tight, very nice. It was a very nice, very well thought out story. It was very well thought out story. It's not like the most exciting story there is in anime history or even in Netflix, but it is a story that makes sense, and without the isekai slop that we are getting, that is actually that's like extra great. That for me, you get extra grade points for that. You get extra grade points for that. I thought it was pretty nice. It was pretty nice. It's also has a more chill pacing. So I almost recommend it as like a brain massage type thing, right? Because it's like sometimes we have a bad habit of looking for things that are overly hype all the time. And, ooh, get excited for this, get excited for that. Sometimes you kind of short-circuit yourself a little bit. Looking for too much stimuli. So, taking in some media that's like a little bit more low stakes, more calm, that is being entertaining, but isn't like trying to short-circuit your dopamine circuit or something like that. I think that is like a... That is actually kind of a healthy thing to look for in entertainment too, right? So it is pretty nice. It is pretty nice. Oh yeah, so I was talking about this earlier. I played the second South Park RPG game recently. The South Park, The Fractured But Whole. And I like the game. I made Kiba in it. I made myself in it. There wasn't any wolf ears in it, so I had to put a bra as wolf ears. And I look at adorable. I looked adorable. Not gonna lie, chat. I look at adorable. I was farting everywhere because, well, the game, it is a South Park game, so it is gonna just freaking mess with you. So all your powers are fart-based. All your main powers are fart-based. You can pick non-fart-based powers for your superhero powers, but mostly your actual power is time manipulation through farts, so it's a very mature game. It's a very mature game. You can't pick your name is always butthole. And stuff like that. Does that detract from my enjoyment of the game? Nah, it is fun. It is fun. It is fun. It's like lots of immature and offensive jokes. It's South Park. What did you expect? Content warning. This is South Park. What did you expect? It was a fun experience. However, it is definitely a AAA game of its time, 2017. And it had a few things that made me that were a little bit sad for me. By the way, I broke the game around the midway point. I created a combo using the Plantmancer's root summoning skill that is like this huge AoE that deals knockback damage with bleeding, which isn't a lot of bleeding, but there is a superpower that's called from the Speedster that allows you to take extra turns at the cost of losing a turn later. Basically, you have 2 turns now, but you have to pay by not moving for one, by being immobilized for 1 turn. So this was my trick. The assassin class, because obviously I was paying attention to the assassin class in the game, has a skill that's a little bomb, a little smoke bomb, if you will, that allows one to become concealed after hitting the opponent and dealing damage to them and changing their positioning. So I would use that. I would first use the skill that gives me an extra turn. Then, after using the skill that gives me an extra turn, I would use the AoE bleed to leave the entire thing with dot damage. And after that, I would hide in the shadows using the smoke bomb while dealing damage to a single target. That way, when I'd lose a turn, I'd be invisible, untargetable, and so the fact that I lost a turn didn't mean anything because I wasn't vulnerable. I was guaranteed to be alive next turn, and then I could take other 2 extra turns, and I could even use the assassin's ultimate that deals a lot of damage to a single target, makes them bleed again, and makes me invisible again. So basically, I could stay the entire fight completely invisible and untargetable, and fight everyone alone because of that, because they just couldn't hit me. I could be that guy. So I was playing at the hardest difficulty, and I broke the game regardless. It was pretty easy to break, actually. It was a pretty easy game to break. I ended up not using the ultimate that caused stealth to happen, but rather use a secondary ultimate that caused different dots other than bleeding. Because I figured out that the accumulating the other dots on the targets that were already bleeding would cause them to have 1 turn at best. So it was worth the risk of being hit by the opponent. And by the way, on hard mode, the opponent hits hard. The opponents hit very hard on hard mode. Like, the tanks only work on hard mode when they're using the special taunt skill that makes them invulnerable to everything. That's like the only way that they can tank anything, because the damage is just really high late game. It's just really high damage late game. I don't know if you can catch people streaming this game, but if you can, and if they're on hard mode, you will see everyone in the red very often. It's just how the game is. But the AAA part that was a little bit sad of the game was, one, the fact that there are a shitload of DLCs. There is even a bus station that's the DLC bus station. You take the bus to reach the DLCs. And there is a... how do you say? The main way status progression works in the game is you have equipments that are called artifacts, and these artifacts increase your power level. Like, you have different stats, but they're all attached to this power level, and all your equipment pretty much raise the exact same thing. The only difference between most equipments is that there are some equipments that will increase stuff like critical damage, knockback damage, dot damage, healing, ally HP. So that is the main differentiation. Outside of that, every single equipment that is within the same power level will grant around the exact same status. It's pretty much like there was a point in World of Warcraft where the weapons you equip didn't make a lick of a difference, and they could have just been like a block of marshmallow. It's a block of status equipment is a block of marshmallow, essentially, in that game. That part, not that big of a fan. Not that big of a fan of that part of the game. That is the one thing I dislike. But it has a lot of cool... there's a lot of cool and funny items you can unlock to make your superhero costume. I find it super fun. There are some very poor taste jokes in there too. Heads up if anyone wants to try it. It's South Park. Sensibility warning, it's South Park. Just be ready. It's South Park. There isn't much else to say. It's South Park. Right. You got a microaggression counter. You got a microaggression counter. You can use flavor text from the enemies to get a free hit in. Microaggression is a mechanic in the game. If you catch the microaggression, you get to give a free punch on the opponent. That is a mechanic in the game. But overall, enjoyable experience. Had fun. Would play it again after a long time, and I've forgotten what I did to make it OP. Maybe try to make something that isn't as OP. What kind of hurts the replayability a little bit, but I don't hate it, is the fact that later in the game, by the end of the game, all your choices regarding your class don't matter because you can cross-class with any class by the game's end, where you just pick a skill, pick any skill, and then you add it to like your skill. You can add all the different skills from the different classes to your skill loadout. But like there are a lot of jokes that were still relevant, like they make a lot of fun of social media in the games in that series. The Stick of Truth also has a lot of social media jokes, and they're all still relevant to this day. The game's from 2017. You'd think things would change. And like, oh, I don't know how long it has been. 7? 9 years? Yeah, 9 years. God damn. You'd think things would have changed in 9 years, but they really, really didn't. So, the parodies are extremely relevant. The parody in the game is still extremely relevant. Which means the game aged well. But maybe it would be better if it did. Oops. It would be better if it didn't. Still, was a lot of fun playing that during my free time while I was on vacation. And it's always a good time to kick Cartman's ass, honestly. It's always a good time. So I want to make this less symmetrical. So I am gonna put this here lower. And we're also gonna stretch it a little bit. There we go. I'm gonna take advantage of what I've already drawn. Make it the process a little faster, right? I could draw everything from scratch, could be better, but digital medium has this perk essentially. Mhm. Okay, there we go. Hello, Kitty Kitty. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing today? Hope you're doing good. Hello, hello. We are doing some background studies. Hope you're doing good. Consuming nutrients? That is nice. That is nice. Nutrient consumption is important indeed. Speaking of nutrient consumption, that actually reminds me. I saw the grossest video on YouTube the other day. I found this channel where there's this guy who tries out historical recipes, right? He's like a cook and a historian, and he tries to follow recipes that are in historical documents for different stuff, and then he tries out to eat them. And he got his hands into what is considered the most is it Max Miller? Is it Max Miller? Hold up, let me check. Max Miller. Yes, that is the name. That is the name. Tasting History with Max Miller. Yes. That is the one. That is the one. He tried a ninja recipe. Did you see the ninja recipe one, Cutie Kitty? He tried the legendary ninja hunger balls. Which is, by the way, a thing I definitely seen in manga before. Yeah, the nutrient ball, that one. There's this manga called The Wolf and Lone Cub, where one of the characters was like a ninja intelligence guy. He was one of the main antagonists, and he gets kidnapped by this corrupt merchant guy who is trying to drug him with opium. So he is sneaking opium into his food, and he is refusing to eat because he doesn't want to get poisoned. Hello, Medina. And he is sick. He is making the guy freak out because he doesn't eat, but he seems fine. But secretly, there is a ninja that is feeding him these hunger balls so can stay healthy even though he's in captivity. And he drives the evil merchant insane. It's like a really funny moment, a really fun moment in that manga. Medina, hello, hope you're doing good. Don't know if you guys ever heard of that manga. This does sound fun and silly. That manga was like extremely overly serious, right? But it was so over the top. It was so over the top. Good, 2 trees and a lonesome road, looking good. Thank you, thank you. I also made this one. Basically, if you've been seeing my Sunday stream, I got inspired by the Sword of Hope game, and I decided to make like different these different sceneries that are kind of like that game, kind of like in that game. Damn, your residence in Gardenia. Good work, Kiba. Thank you, thank you. Also, we're using a limited color palette today. We're using only Game Boy Color palettes for today's stream. I can see the balls being made from the same thing as Muesli Bar, and you cover them in some chocolate and make them not too big so you can fit one in your mouth at a time. Yeah. But the thing about those hunger balls is that it takes like 3 years to make them or something like that. And the end result was like pretty unappealing. Ooh. 5 in a row. 5 in a row. Good job, Medina. Yeah, those balls were not good. It can't be that it takes 3 years. It does because it involves fermenting sake. And you have to add it every day for like 3 years. It's a really over-the-top recipe. The guy from the channel actually has a theory that the reason why the hunger balls are made that way is because even though technically the documents were historically accurate, the documents that the hunger balls were made of from the recipe of the hunger balls were based on were historically accurate. They date from a time where ninjas were already more myth than factual people, right? I don't know if you guys know where our conceptualization of ninjas actually come from, because historically ninjas weren't called ninjas. Historically ninjas weren't called ninjas. You know where ninjas were called ninjas? Ninjas were called ninjas in kabuki plays. So our current view of ninjas is already slightly altered by fiction, by these kabuki plays. Like in one of the greatest amazing pixel art and ninja historian. Thank you. I only know what I saw from like tidbits here and there. To be fair, I think the muesli bar is more realistic and can be kept a long time as well. I see. Adding some sugar and fat to the balls help as well. The secret ingredient of those balls, from what I understood, were ginseng roots. They are the things that supposedly give you the nutrition to keep going. But other than that, it's like a bread bowl with a lot of fermented sake in it. Is what that was, essentially. Ah, yes, to keep you going. Yeah. I remember that at the end, the YouTuber was like, well, the book said that if you eat one of these, you will be sated for 3 whole days. After I ate one, the taste was so terrible that I probably wouldn't feel like eating anything for that long. So it can work by lowering your appetite. For all the wrong reasons, but it can work. But yeah, like the basic one, ninjas wear black. This is like the most simple thing that's being disproven regarding ninjas, which is like, actually, if a ninja was going to wear any uniform at all, it would have been light blue to match the color of the sky at night, because at least in Japan, full moon skies very well lit by the moon in feudal Japan were very common. So if you wore full black, you would actually be too easy to spot. Are Brazilian footballs just coca leaves, not mimi, or they not use it like that? No. You're thinking, I think it's Colombia? Brazil doesn't have... Which country? Hold up, which country was it? Whoa. Don't give seizures. Hold up. Yeah, Bolivia and Peru. Bolivia and Peru are the countries where chewing on coke leaves is part of the culture. Real ninja has nuggets and did the sex at night when the full moon was up. I think they would have sexed regardless of the moon phase. And the act of chewing on coca leaves is part of tradition because it helps with coping with the high altitudes of the Andes mountains. Maybe ninjas work in mysterious ways. So the way the reason why the current scene ninja outfit is black, right? It's black colored, is because the people who actually wore black were the stagehands in kabuki plays. And the stagehands in kabuki play wore black colors to alert the audience that they should be ignored, because they were there to make like special effects. So they would do things like puppeteering a dragon that appeared. So there would be a dragon puppet, and there would be the stagehands holding the dragon puppet behind. However, there was this really fun power move that the writers of kabuki plays would pull off every so often, where out of the blue, one of the stagehands would pull out a weapon and assassinate one character in the audience. Not really, but in the plot. And this would signify, that that stagehand was actually a ninja in disguise the whole time! Da-da! So the ninjas were so sneaky in kabuki play that they would actually break the fourth wall to reach their targets. Then that scared me. How can people live a life so high up? Humans adapt to anything. Now imagine some random dude going like, no, don't look at me at full moon, I'll turn into a poof ninja. Honestly, cutie kitty, can I be real with you? Can I be like super real with you? Here in Brazil, there is this guy, right, who is kind of very important for the semi-independent comic scene. His name is Marcelo Cássaro. He was the author of Holy Avenger, and during part of his career, he wrote for gaming magazines, and in those gaming magazines he created a persona called Captain Ninja. And Captain Ninja's backstory is that he used to be a regular guy until he got bit by a radioactive ninja, and thus he became Captain Ninja, defender of fighting aliens and fighting video game characters with cheesy strats. This is so dumb, and I love it a lot. Go Captain Ninja. Yeah, it was pretty fun. Then he started trying to make his character serious, and there was a bunch of head scratching about that. But anyways, hello, how are you doing today? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing good. Hello, how are you? Welcome. Right now, we are making some backdrop studies. How are you? Okay, but apparently the game does have a third-person option. Interesting. I'm willing to try. I am willing to try. It looks funny. Especially because the only point of the game is to hang out and try to have a fun weekend in the woods. Seems like it could be a fun time. We have to see if Momochi is okay with it too. But I am willing to try. Do or do not, there is no try. But Kitty only set deals in absolutes. I wonder which one is true. Which one of these quotes is true? Because they contradict each other. They absolutely contradict each other. I know, and Yoda was a Sith. If you do, you can fail, but if you did, do not. So, kinda works. I'll be real, to this day, understanding the Sith is a pain to me. It's just pain. I kinda understand them, sorta, but I still have trouble making sense of them in a sense. Making sense of them in a sense, nice. You know what I mean, right? Good. My base understanding of Sith and Jedi dichotomy is that the Sith advocate for using the Force fueled by your own emotions to the point where you get carried away by them, while the Jedi advocate for controlling your emotions so much that you're pretty much repressing them. Neither is healthy. At the end of the day, your EQ will be equally emotionally stunted. And the whole philosophy of repressing our emotions is what makes Jedi become Sith. You can technically become a Dark User just by being indifferent, and a Jedi, with wisdom, in my opinion, don't really need to be a bad guy. Oh, I remember this one funny sentence: test failed successfully. Indeed. Like, I think one of the best games to like have a good take of how Jedi versus Sith works is the KOTOR games, where basically acts of anger and sadism increase some of your powers, right? It's not using the Sith's power that makes you a Sith, but if you want to increase your dark side affinity, you can kinda, the easy way is being an asshole. Because rage is the easiest emotion to fuel the dark side powers. Can Sith be good people but bad Jedi? So I think so, but at that point it's kind of like Falk Sith, right? Because at that point it actually becomes political, right? Where you're like, in a sense, it's kind of what can happen with the protagonist of the first game, depending of which choices you're having. where because you aren't following the overly disciplined code of conduct of the Jedi, you can be considered a Sith by the Council, even if your actions don't necessarily reflect a Sith ideology. But there is also like just how do I put it? The Force is kind of fucky. The Force is kind of fucky wucky. Because you have a lot of power in your hands and you have a lot of different ways to use them. And supposedly, the more selfishly you use them, even if you have good intentions, this opens a door for you to keep abusing your powers over and over until you no longer know right from wrong, essentially. Loco became a Sith because it has a lot of corrupt people in it at the time. He wasn't even wrong on being disappointed on that. He wasn't. But, like, I guess the thing was he got carried away by his emotions. And being carried away by your emotions is to a Jedi a road you can't come back from. The main problem is this is very much personal ideology. I like the people get influenced by power and good intentions going wrong in media, not IRL. No, that is fair. That is a thing. It's that whole idea of absolute power corrupts absolutely. And are you the one who is going to be, and are you going to be the one who can break the cycle and not be corrupted by absolute power, right? Which is like the temptation and stuff like that. Sometimes it feels like the dark side is more about mind controlling the user, and that's why the Siths are mostly bad. Isn't the Force dangerous? It is! It absolutely is! I think that was like the main point of KOTOR. Knights of the Old Republic. Like, by the second game, literally, our teacher is kind of like, I'm trying to figure out an alternative to the Force. I'm trying to figure out what to do about the Force, because to me it seems like the Force is just manipulating people into fighting eternally. If I had to try to elaborate, hello Rose, welcome to the stream. If I had to try to make more sense out of it, what I think would make sense, right, is that the wielding the Force is somewhat addictive. It feels like really good. This is where I'm gonna cite a somewhat cringy reference. There is this old anime called Claymore, and in this anime, hot ladies fight demons by consuming their blood and becoming half demon. So it's basically Dragon Age, right? All right, Medina, have a good one. Essentially, it's Dragon Age, right? And they have to wield their power, the demon power, very carefully, because yielding the power very carefully, because when you yield the power feels like sex. The power feels like an orgasm, essentially. Because of that, only women are capable of manipulating that power, because they take longer to climax. So they can wield the power longer without turning into a demon. Whereas all men apparently are very prone to precocious ejaculation. So if you try to make a man into a claymore, a half demon, they will immediately turn into full demon. I know. Dark fantasy anime at its peak. I know. God. Yeah, I know. There is like a lot to unpack there. But I guess the idea is that the Force is a very irresistibly tempting power, because you can do so much with it. Right? It can make your life so easy. If you just lean in it as much as you can, your life will be so much easier with it. And that will start leading you towards making increasingly more selfish decisions. And then you become a Sith, essentially. And then you're kind of like a Manosphere Dude Bro podcasting. You want to become the Alpha Sith. Yeah, I know. Some old anime is pretty wild. That anime is like a whole can of worms on its own, honestly. The Jedi were just MLM, where the Sith knew what was up with the Force, and the Sith created the rule of two. The Force kind of has that rule of conserving ninjutsu going on with it, right? As a conservation of ninjutsu. The more Force users there are, the less powerful they become. Individually. I believe that's how that worked. Which is how the Force balances itself out every time. When one side is winning, it immediately becomes the weakest one. The Sith try to prevent that by keeping the Force the number of Siths to the lowest amount possible, while the Jedi will always try to propagate and end up becoming weaker because of it, individually becoming weaker because of it. It should rename from Force to Going with the Flow, and everyone will be better off. Agreed. Agreed. One thing that's really funny, I saw this the other day. There was this podcast where these guys were delving into like old media content for Star Wars. And they discovered that at first the force was such a vague concept that basically the force was a little bit, could be like weaker. So you could have powers like talking to squirrels that are force fueled. Like, I'm a Jedi, what do? I talk to squirrels. And that's it. Sith are more intelligent than Jedis, they build arms that don't use the Force. That is true, but at the same time, their armies are very inefficient against Force users. Unless the plot demands for their armies to actually be good against Force users, which they will randomly be. And now that I think about it, every so often, I think there actually are units in the Imperial Army that can use the Force to some extent. I think there's like the... Oh, what was it? It was like the red guys, right? Oh yeah, it actually sucks in there. It actually sucks in there. But if I recall correctly, the red guys from the Empire, they can actually use some Force powers. They are taught how to use the Force, but they are not indoctrinated into either Sith or Jedi ideology. So they know some basic tricks. Does Cloaked in Red? Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, they can use some basic Force tricks. Some of them are trained in how to resist Force powers, actually. And only how to resist it. Wait, you mean those with Palpatine? Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, at least according to some new game canon, right? They are supposed to be able to use the Force. To a smaller extent. It's kind of like they can use the Force to resist mind suggestion, right? And stuff like that. Resist being pushed, Force push and stuff like that. Best way I can put it is that they have, they gain +5 in saving throws against Force powers. They were trained to gain +5 in saving throws against Force powers. Well, according to George Lucas, they are Palpatine, kinda, if they die. Ah. Wait, was that George Lucas or is that like from the new canon? Because as we know, Palpatine returned somehow. I'll be real though, that quote is so funny to me. I know it's just because the characters didn't know how he returns and there's like a lengthy explanation after, but it's so funny just being like, he returned somehow. How did he return? I don't know, somehow. I just thought that was pretty funny. That is the George Lucas canon, so Palpatine dies, one of his dormant clones activate and his back. These clones are the ones in red. Ah. So, really the end of the third movie of the original trilogy doesn't mean anything? Huh. That is kind of sad. Unless they did a force thingy, and the force thingy kept Palpatine from truly returning. The real Ewoks did a little dance and Palpatine's soul was banished to the Shadow Realm forever? Maybe that's what happened. Don't you want Ewoks to be the reason why Palpatine can't return to life? Their unblinking dead eyes actually know necromancy? My understanding is that the Ewoks were supposed to be Wookiees. They changed it to will Ewoks to be more marketable with children. And honestly, where's my game where I can play as an Ewok, huh? Where's my game where I can be a little freakish little mutant teddy bear that goes around going... And I take on guys that are 10 times better armored than me because I'm still in like the Stone Age in development and I still beat the crap out of them. Oh, that should be a game? Absolutely. Absolutely. Honestly, for starters of Wookiee games, we should have a game that is a simulator of the wars that happen in the third movie of the trilogy. Right, I think it was Endor? I don't remember the name of the planet. Where the Ewoks fight the Stormtroopers. Where it's just like you're playing basically Trapped. If you've ever seen that game for the PS2, where you're just setting up traps all over the planet, right? And you keep watching Stormtroopers falling for your traps in real time. And you're like, yes, yes, yes. Make more pits full of lances. Let's impale those Stormtroopers. And it's all extremely bloody and gory, and the little Ewoks keep doing like a little cutesy dance with the guards of the Stormtroopers. Can we have that as a game, please? I would play that. Can we have that as a game? Little Ewoks catching the Stormtroopers with high-octane plasma rifles in like little nets and they poke them to death. Because the Stormtroopers can't hit for shit. So obviously they die. We could start with that, then we can get the actual platformer, the Ewok action platformer. Oh god. Can we have that? I want that. By the way, speaking of old movies, a not so old movie, Lord of the Rings. Yes, Lord of the Rings is a not so old movie. It's not from the 80s, so, or 70. So, Lord of the Rings, right? there is the discussion that of like, oh, but why do they have to walk? Why can't they ride the eagles? Right? Why can't they ride the eagles to Mordor? Like, I don't understand. There are people who say that even supposedly Tolkien also thought that was a plot hole. I honestly don't believe this. If Tolkien thought that was a plot hole, I think he underestimated the world he built. Because you know what gets detected really, what is good at detecting eagles flying midair really easily? Sauron would literally have seen it coming. He is a giant watchtower. He is literally a big eye on top of a very tall tower. He would see it coming literally. Literally. And I am tired of people pretending that Sauron isn't a giant watchtower that is constantly watching everything. Aerial assault would be like the easiest thing for him to spot. There is no way. There is no way. The hobbits being particularly tiny and wearing cloaks that can literally make them look like rocks, right? That was part of the reason why they could walk to Mordor without getting caught. They had a shitload of points in stealth. Come on, guys. Come on. I know it seems simple. I know it's like, ooh, this is a great story. But I'm gonna feel smart pointing out the thing that I think is a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. I'm sorry. It is as well written as you think it is. Sorry. That is not a plot hole. That is not a plot hole. The catapult, however. The catapult is risky, but the catapult could actually work, because even if Sauron sees the ring flying, you still got a chance. You still got a chance of hitting the lava, the volcano in one hit. To be fair, Cutie Kitty, Bugs Bunny wouldn't walk into Mordor. Bugs Bunny would dig into Mordor because he took the wrong turn at... what was it, Bogota or something? He would absolutely get into Mordor via underground tunnels because he took a wrong turn. Many people forget this one very important trait of Bugs Bunny, being extremely bad at following directions. He was in the King Arthur's court at one point. He got lost so badly, he traveled in time. And found a singing sword. Pretty cute episode, by the way. But yeah. The one interesting thing about the Cid too is that I think the morality system of how the Sith operate is very similar to how Sauron operates in the Lord of the Rings, where the One Ring has that all-corrupting power that everyone starts to get blinded by power and slowly loses their mind in search of this power and starts losing themselves more and more and more. But at that point, you're comparing the Force to the Ring, and the Force is supposed to have this positive trait to it, and it just gets confusing. Because it almost makes more sense for the Ring to do that, because the Ring is like absolute evil. You know what is a very cursed item that corrupts people? Without even trying to be like something that has mind control on it. And it's just power corrupting people. The Death Note. Whoa. Just imagine bugs walking up to the gates being like, surprise base faction. Base not up to our current civil base center. I may need to close it down. Oh god, I can see bugs doing that, honestly. If there is one bunny who could pull it off, it is Bugs Bunny. And there is an Elmer-looking orc there. Either Elmer Fudd or a Yosemite Sen orc. But like, well, you see. Exactly. You gotta have him. You gotta have him. Otherwise, what even is the point, right? Oh yeah, I forgot. I have singing lessons today. I need to end the stream. Oops. I need to end the stream to get ready for it. So everyone, that is literally all the time we have for today. Thank you all very much for joining me. We did good. We finished this one. We started this one. It's gonna turn out really fun. It's gonna turn out really great. So I hope you all have a wonderful day or night. Stay awesome. And I'll catch you guys next time, okay? Bye-bye, everyone. Let me find someone to raid today who is on... Preferably someone I know. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, we haven't raided her in forever, so Everyone, once again, thank you very much for joining me. Hope you all have a wonderful day or night. Stay awesome, and remember, when in doubt, when you think you can't do anything, just focus your inner ninja, and sure you can! Bye bye, everyone! Have a good one! Bye bye!
And then already people were like,